This Jared Anderson-Martin Bakole fight is absolutely fascinating to me. I just saw the face-off between them and it looked like Anderson was trying his best to get in Bakole's head. And Bakole did look quite tense. The face-off lasted several minutes, after which they interviewed Martin Bakole first. And he said, "I'd like to thank Matchroom, my team. Bear in mind, he's promoted by Ben Shalom. He hasn't been with Matchroom for years." Man was so flustered by the face-off that he forgot who his promoter was. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to lose the fight, obviously, but I did think it was interesting. Now, the fans and the boxing media and the boxing fraternity are split on who's going to win this fight. The vast majority of people picking Bakole to win, and probably the only people picking Bakole to win, are the Brits. Whereas the Americans are not only picking Anderson, but very few of them are giving Bakole any chance whatsoever. So it's a very, very interesting one. With the Americans, the only thing they know of Martin Bakole, most of them, is the fact that he got stopped by Michael Hunter all those years ago. Whereas the Brits have seen a lot more of him, and they've heard all these sparring stories, right? Which we're all kind of sick of at this point. But I'm going to tell you another one in a second, having said that. The only American I've seen picking Bakole or giving him any kind of chance is Jarrell Miller. And the reason for that is Jarrell Miller sparred Martin Bakole in the Tyson Fury gym, I want to say about 18 months, 2 years ago. Now, there was a video at the time of Jarrell Miller coming out of Tyson Fury's gym and talking to the camera, admitting that he just got his butt kicked. And I thought at the time that he was saying he got his butt kicked by Tyson Fury. I assumed that's what he meant. But I later came to find out he wasn't talking about Tyson Fury. He was talking about having just sparred Martin Bakole. Okay, and Bakole got the better of it. That is where Jarrell Miller's respect for Martin Bakole comes from. And that's the reason he's picking Bakole to beat Jared Anderson. He's picking him to actually retire Anderson on his stool. But also bear in mind, Jarrell Miller and Anderson have had some run-ins apparently, both on social media and in real life during fight week. They've seen each other and exchanged some words, and Miller said that Anderson's this, that, and the other. I'm not going to repeat the words here for the sake of the algorithm, but he doesn't make much of Anderson's heart, let's just put it that way. A lot of Brits are skeptical of Jared Anderson, mainly because of what happened in the Charles Martin fight, where he showed a lot of vulnerability. And also, I don't think they like his braggadocious persona. In fact, he's not even that braggadocious, but you know, the loud clothes and the showboating and all that type of stuff. I think that turns a lot of Brits off. So a lot of them want him to lose. And with the Americans, the reason they're so skeptical about Martin Bakole is because of the fact he got stopped by Michael Hunter all those years ago. And for many of them, that's the only Martin Bakole fight they've seen. And I doubt most of them have even seen the whole fight. They've just seen maybe highlights or whatever and seen the L on Martin Bakole's record. And they're thinking, if you're getting stopped by a little heavyweight like Michael Hunter, you got no chance against Jared Anderson. In fact, I just watched Teddy Atlas talk about the fight, and he's giving Martin Bakole no chance whatsoever. He thinks it's going to be pretty straightforward work for Jared Anderson. Now, I am picking Anderson to win, but I do not see him as this overwhelming favorite. It would not shock me whatsoever if Martin Bakole managed to defeat him. But the reason I'm picking Anderson is because of his youth, his athleticism. I think he's more versatile than Martin Bakole. When he wants to, he can get up on his toes and move around. He's very nimble. And he can also hold his ground, which is what he prefers to do, and go for the knockout. He loves knockouts, this guy. Martin Bakole is known for being a very high-volume fighter, but Jared Anderson is even more high-volume. He throws even more punches, and he's got incredible fitness. Absolutely incredible fitness. And so if it turns out to be a battle of who's got the higher work rate and higher stamina, I think Jared Anderson's going to come out on top in a battle like that, personally. I think if Martin Bakole's going to win, he'll have to be a bit cute in there. He'll have to show Jared Anderson some old man, veteran tricks. And he must have picked some of those up over the years. Both guys have got a good jab, punishing jab. Anderson's is the faster and the snappier of the two. Another reason I'm picking Anderson to win is because I just think that Martin Bakole's style is kind of suited to him. Anderson likes guys who stand in front of him. Charles Martin gave him problems because Charles Martin was moving about, and he's a tall southpaw. I mean, Martin Bakole's tall as well, but he's not really a back foot guy. I've seen him box on a back foot a few times, but that's not really his forte. He likes to come forward, throw loads of shots, beat you up. And that plays into Jared Anderson's hands. He loves that. He loves guys who are going to do that. Nobody's really been able to compete with Jared Anderson in that type of fight before. Obviously, he hasn't fought at a particularly high level. Nevertheless, I haven't seen any signs that Jared Anderson is particularly vulnerable in that type of fight. He seems more vulnerable when he's in there against someone who's somewhat sneaky. I mean, even in the Jerry Forrest fight, which only lasted 2 rounds, Forrest was catching Jared Anderson with the southpaw left. And Forrest is quite sneaky. He is a cagey vet, but like I said, that was only a 2-round fight. And Jerry Forrest was overwhelmed by Anderson's work rate. Bear in mind, Jerry Forrest went the distance with Zheli Zhang, and he nearly had Zheli Zhang out of there. He also went the distance with Michael Hunter in their second fight. Just to put things in perspective, Anderson blasted Jerry Forrest out of there in 2. That's a decent result. Yes, Forrest is kind of a journeyman, but he's a journeyman who comes to try win, and he's dangerous. A few years ago, Jared Anderson fought a big African guy. I forget his first name, but his surname was eBay. Big, strong, powerful guy. And he tried to stand in front of Anderson and take it to him. And he got an absolutely horrific beating. That fight's up on YouTube. Anderson absolutely pulverized him with a jab. Honestly, it was brutal work with the jab in that fight. Brutal. It was literally Larry Holmes type work with the jab, whereby eBay's face was beaten to a bloody pulp just by getting hit with that one punch over and over again, the jab. And once he was sufficiently tenderized, Anderson opened up with power shots and knocked eBay out in brutal fashion. Now, I'm not saying that eBay is any Martin Bakole, but I think that is what Anderson expects to happen in this fight as well. I think he sees Martin Bakole as maybe a slightly better version of eBay, because Anderson and his team, they don't seem bothered at all by Martin Bakole. They think it's going to be a comfortable victory for them. We shall see. Now, ordinarily, you'd say that all the pressure is on Jared Anderson for this fight, but there's a lot of pressure on Martin Bakole and his trainer-manager, Billy Nelson, as well, because they've been running their mouth off for so many years about how great Martin Bakole is and who he's beaten up in sparring, and he destroyed Usyk in sparring and beat up AJ and beat Dubois and this, that, and the other. I mean, literally every single time Billy Nelson is interviewed, he's banging on about who Martin Bakole beat up in sparring. It's been going on for years. So now Bakole's going to have to go in there and back up his and Billy Nelson's boasts. There's pressure on them to do that, certainly from the British contingent. Doing well in sparring is great, but there have been loads of heavyweights over the years who fall into the category of gym fighter, whereby they produce great form behind closed doors, but where it counts, where it matters, under the bright lights in a real fight, they don't deliver. One of those guys was Jesse Ferguson. He fought Mike Tyson, Frank Bruno, Riddick Bowe, Ray Mercer, famously. And Jesse Ferguson was an absolute beast in the gym. I saw some sparring footage, which unfortunately is no longer on YouTube. It used to be on Steve Lott's YouTube channel, but Steve Lott has since passed away, and his channel's been removed by whoever. But he had tons and tons and tons of Mike Tyson sparring footage, like entire sessions, not little highlight clips here and there, entire full sparring sessions on his channel. And there was a number of these sparring sessions with Jesse Ferguson. And Ferguson, I'm telling you, I saw these sparring sessions he had. He was giving Mike Tyson the business in the gym. So much so that there were people in the comments saying, who the hell is that guy? He's giving Tyson the business. Not realizing it was Jesse Ferguson, a guy who Mike Tyson had already beat in a professional fight. It was originally a disqualification, but due to pressure from Tyson's team, who wanted to maintain his perfect knockout record, the commission changed it to a TKO win for Tyson. But yeah, that was Jesse Ferguson. In the gym, he was an absolute beast. But under the bright lights in a real fight, he just couldn't produce that same type of form. It's a strange thing. Jesse Ferguson, during most of his career, was a fringe contender at best. He did get a heavyweight title shot against Riddick Bowe. He got blasted out in a couple of rounds. What did that go? 1 or 2 rounds? I think he went 2 rounds. He also got blasted out by Frank Bruno. His best performances were probably against Ray Mercer. In one of his fights with Mercer, he alleges that Mercer offered him a bribe to lose. That was a big controversy at the time. So yeah, you get these gym fighters. Martin Bakole needs to prove that he's not one of them. He needs to be able to prove that he's a beast in professional fights, not just in sparring. And you think about Martin Bakole's career and who he's actually beaten in fights. It's very thin, the resume. He's got a win over Tony Yoka, obviously, but given what's happened to Tony Yoka since, that's not all that impressive. Who else did he beat? Sergey Kuzmin, that was a very close fight. He never managed to put Kuzmin on the canvas. Bear in mind, Michael Hunter did put Sergey Kuzmin on the canvas, dropped him heavy in that fight. Other than that, Martin Bakole, Well, he did beat, I guess, Carlos Takam last time out, a very old and faded Carlos Takam. There's really nothing on that resume. So the perception of him as this beast comes from, again, the sparring stories from Billy Nelson. He hasn't done anything beastly in a professional prize fighting ring. Not as yet, anyway. We'll see if he can do it on Saturday against Jared Anderson. So, yeah, it's a fascinating one. I'm sticking to my guns and saying Anderson. I wouldn't be shocked if Bakole won, but I just got to go with the youth. I've got to go with the extra agility, the extra mobility, and even greater work rate and fitness. So that's my take on it. Give me your take in the comments.